Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back. Welcome back to another wonderful edition of the Devon and the Duke podcast. It's a limited podcast series hosted by your main man, Duke Loves Rasslin, and of course, one of the greatest of all time, the Hall of Famer himself, Mr. Devon Dudley. How you doing there, Devon?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm just trying to see who else I can piss off this week.
Listen, man, we done trended online the last 2 weeks in a row, and we done stirred up the dirt sheets. I think they're trying to assemble their army, and they're gonna start typing fast and angry at us, Devon. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know why, because, it's not like what we said wasn't true, and going back to the Will Washington thing, and not to get too deep on that, but I didn't say anything bad about the man. All I said was what people were telling me. No one's bad mouthing him. I'm just saying something was brought up, and I said, well, this is what these are what these people are saying. So I don't know him from Adam. And I expressed that. I don't know him from Adam. So don't get mad at me. Maybe go to AEW, find out who doesn't like him and who says that stuff about him, and get on them. I'm only reporting what was told to me. Ain't nobody bad-mouthing that man, and goddamn, ain't nobody bad-mouthing AEW. If anything, I've put over AEW, and this slump that they're in, I'm hoping they get out of it, because the WWE needs competition. And if AEW is that competition, then God bless them, but that's what they need. And so we've already learned that without competition, the wrestling business is going to go flat. It's going to suck. So with now there's a place for somebody to go, thanks to Tony Khan. And again, I don't badmouth him either. All I say is he's not, I don't think he was qualified enough or capable enough to be, the head booker of the company, because he's so much of a fan. And sometimes when you're a fan and you know this, it clouds your judgment on things. You can't make rational decisions in pro wrestling in a company and expect it to be, just you're gonna hit home runs. It's just not gonna work that way sometimes. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But again, you're looking at it from a fan's point of view, and it's just not gonna work that way. Sometimes it does, depending on what it is. Or sometimes when you have to make the decision of, dropping a hammer on somebody because of the fact that, they broke the rules or they didn't listen or they were out of line, can you sit there and make the rational decision to suspend, to fine, and all that? Now, yes, I've heard that he's done that, in the past few months. I think the first thing was the whole thing with the CM Punk thing. I think that started everything. And then, of course, Jungle Boy, I don't know his real name. But, that started, that was the second one from what I heard. Now I heard Britt Breaker has gotten fined. I don't know how true that is, but, I found out that she's getting fined. So he's starting to go definitely in the right direction with trying to get control of his company. But again, you need somebody that's a wrestling mind that knows this business inside and out that can do that. One of the greatest assets I think that would have worked when his contract was up with WWE would have been Paul Heyman. I think he would have been great. I think that place would have turned around so fast. Oh my God. I don't think the wrestling world would have known what hit them. I think that would have been a huge, huge thing for AEW if they would have been able to get Paul Heyman. But they weren't able to do that. So I don't know what other wrestling mind out there that could really help Tony to get that place to where it needs to be, other than a guy like Paul Heyman.
I agree 100%. And I'll tell you, when we look back at Paul Heyman's speech at the Hall of Fame, he made it abundantly clear that you try to cancel him, he's going to come back 10 times stronger. If you don't heed his advice, he's going to find a way to reinvent himself even bigger. And I agree. If he would have been in charge of booking in AEW, that company would legitimately be competing with the WWE, as opposed to the abysmal ratings that they have, and the abysmal attendance, live attendance that they have at their events. And I'm just going to throw it out here, folks, and let's call it what it is. Ever since Will Washington was hired in AEW, they have had a complete downturn. It's been fascinating to watch how far they have dropped from wherever they were. And I'm not saying that that's Will Washington's fault, but it is something to keep in mind, folks. If this guy, who's just as qualified as I am, and I'm not qualified to be booking wrestling, he's part of the booking committee and all this nonsense here. If this guy is going around telling wrestlers what they need to do and how they need to do it and all that nonsense, it's no surprise that the company is doing worse than it's ever been doing. So I'm with you on that, Devon. I agree 100%.
Well, I just feel that that place has such good potential. They have the right tools. They have everything they need, especially in terms of talent, to get to where they need to be in terms of um, being a number two company. You know, they definitely have what it takes. But again, he needs somebody like a Paul Heyman that will come in there and help him to get that place where it needs to be. That's all he needs. I mean, I'll be honest with you. He get that, and he's off to the races. But
Agreed.
again, who is that person other than Paul Heyman? I just don't know.
Well, whoever they were, he's had enough variations in that company. You look at a Jim Ross, you start going down the line, Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko. You've had so many different minds that if you were to combine them, you probably could have been okay, or at least a lot more competitive. But it's clear that Tony's not listening to them. So,
Well,
and we've heard them say that, right?
I've
So,
heard, I've heard them say it, but I also feel that Malenko, Anderson, all those guys. Paul is very strong. His demeanor, his presence is very, very strong. And if anybody can be heard and made heard and make sure you hear him, it's Paul. I just don't think the names that you said could do that. They're great minds in the business. And yes, if you put them all together, they would definitely, cause, havoc in a good way in terms of getting the product where it needs to be. But I just don't know. Again, Paul is just the guy.
agreed 100%. It's funny. I was talking to Phil Marks over at the Pro Wrestling Times podcast. Shout out to those folks there. Great folks. Listen to the show here as well, which is very nice of them. They asked a question that I want to get you. I want to get this answer from you directly here. When you were in the process of negotiating with AEW, trying to figure out if it would make sense for you to be part of the company, you letting them know that you would prefer a behind the scenes role, you feel that you could help out in that way, you did not want to wrestle. Ultimately, when we take a look at what they've done, they brought in Christian, then eventually they brought in Edge. They brought in the Hardy Boys. When you reflect on this, Devon, do you think there could have been a long-term plan to get the Dudley Boys in AEW, and you were the first domino that they were trying to drop, so to speak, and then they were going to try to pull Bubba in as well?
Yes, I mean, wait. What are you trying to get at?
Well, just again, reflecting on who they've brought in, was Tony trying to assemble his own TLC, his own nostalgia?
Um,
Was he?
could- that could have been the case. You had the Hardys, you had both Edge and Christian in the company. The only ones that were left, of course, was Bubba and myself. I do know that he doesn't care for Bubba pretty much, and because he got questioned about something on the XM radio, Busted Open Radio, about the referees. And I guess Tony took offense to it, and he never forgave Bubba for that. And so he's got a beef with Bubba. I think anybody that has something to say to try to help the company, not hurt it, there's always going to be rift with Tony. And I think Tony has to understand, don't take it personal. You know, criticism about the company is good in a way. You can't get everything positive. There's got to be something that has to be criticized that you can basically, try to correct and make better. Again, I'll say it again. You've got phenomenal talent over there. No question in my mind, the talent over there is great. Definitely on the same level as the WWE. It's just that storylines and things like that. WWE is killing it right now. It is one of the hottest tickets around. And for that to be, you have to put in perspective, what are they doing right? And the other company is not doing the same thing. Not because I don't want to say wrong, but what are they doing that WWE is doing? What are they not doing, I should say, that WWE is doing? And that's one thing that has to be put in perspective. I don't understand why, when, you tell me, you said the ratings are down, the events, the live events are down. If you see this, then something's got to tell you, we have to correct this.
Well, something has to tell you if you're somebody who's serious about managing and growing that business and ultimately, making money, which clearly Tony Khan has proven that doesn't seem to be his business model, regardless of what anybody else, his surrogates, whether it be Meltzer or some of these other folks, whatever they want to say, clearly that's not what he's doing here. He just looks like a man who doesn't understand how to build a business. It's really crazy to me. We're in the month of August at this point, Devon. January is right around the corner, right? New Year's is right around the corner here. It's only a few short months away. And AEW still does not have a American television deal. WBD let their exclusive window for negotiations expire, which means that Tony Khan can talk to any company he wants, any network he wants to try to land a deal, but it still hasn't happened yet. What is your read on that? Because I got to be honest with you, as a fan, as a person who's been a fan for over 41 years and who's consumed so much of this information, I can never recall a time where only a few short months away, a major wrestling company still doesn't have a TV deal. I can't recall a time of that happening and then they surviving.
Like you said, no company has really ever survived, cutting it this close to not having a deal. I don't know how. I don't even know how to report that or how to say on that. Hopefully he's got something up his sleeve that he'll be able to pull out at the last minute, or maybe he's playing chess and he's finally doing a strategy. I don't know. I hope they get a TV deal, because if not, it's going to be sad. It's going to be real sad, because if they don't have a TV deal, they're fucked. That's the bottom line. They're messed up. They're done. And I hope and pray that they do, because if they do, that means we get to see more AEW, and we just get to see new talent that WWE feels is not ready to be on their show, but now they can be on AEW show. So hopefully that changes leading up to January, and hopefully we'll see them on a new deal.
Now, in comparison, you have WWE. They secured all their television distribution deals. In fact, they got deals, at least through the next 10 years. When you really look at the fine print here, so they're rocking and rolling. There's no question about that. And there was no greater example of this than what they've done over the past week on both SmackDown and Raw, and even NXT. When you take a look at these storylines, we got the next chapter in the Bloodline saga. Roman has come back. He's challenging Solo. We got to figure out who the tribal chief really is. You have all that going on. And then on Raw, you have Judgment Day and Liv Morgan, Mommy, Rhea Ripley, Dom Mysterio, Damian Priest is involved. You got Finn Balor, who turned on Priest. You have that whole storyline that has so many different layers and that has been built over time as well. Just in general, what are your thoughts about the health and the vitality of WWE, especially with these storylines?
Well, who's running the company?
Paul Levesque.
What era did Paul Levesque pretty much have the most success in?
The Attitude Era.
Exactly. When you think about the Attitude Era, which has come and gone, and a lot of people would love to see that come back, but it's not. Just for reasons that we all know. I mean, you can't go X-rated again. I'm sorry. The Attitude Era was all X-rated. And I ain't talking about just nudity either. But no, you know, remember, back then, everybody from the bottom card to the top card had a storyline and that people were into, they invested in. And so, with that being said, this is why that the storylines that are going on today is the history is repeating itself here. The guy who worked in the most successful era in pro wrestling is now running the company and pretty much doing it the same way he did when he came up in the Attitude Era and did what he did and became Triple H. You know, he became the Game. So if the formula is not broke, then leave it alone because it doesn't need to be fixed. And I think that's what a lot of people were trying to say to Vince when he was in power. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, leave it be. It doesn't have to be fixed. You doing great. But it could have been also ideas that weren't fresh in the mind of Vince anymore. You know, he won the Monday Night Wars. That took a lot out of him because he almost lost his company. And then to stay afloat, which is what he did for about 3 or 4 years later after buying WCW, and then ratings started to drop, and then he had to bring in a new generation of guys, and then get the fans to get used to these new guys. You know, it was the same way with the Attitude Era. You know, we had to get people to invest in the new characters that were being brought in, and that was it. So to answer that question again, look who's running the company, and if you think he's not using the same formula, you're crazy. He's got to use the same formula, and it works, and it's proven that it works. And with Paul Heyman by his side, you're damn right it's going to work.
You're damn right it's going to work. No question about it. I mean, it's just fascinating to see how excited the fan base is about everything going on because there's so many different layers. Once again, we talk about the bloodline that in and of itself can carry the company, and it really has in a lot of ways. The Judgment Day situation has finally kicked it up into high gear, and it's like this is must-see TV now. And oh, by the way, you have this other storyline between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. They're literally fighting over a bracelet. Not even a title, a bracelet. And then you got Seth Rollins who's in the mix in that as well. It's like they can't miss at this point. Just fascinating stuff, man.
It's incredible. It truly is incredible.
We have WrestleMania 41, April 20th, 2025. It's going to be happening in Las Vegas. So that's WrestleMania coming up.
I said I will be there.
You will be there. Okay, so we're gonna have Devon Dudley in the house. Stone Cold Steve Austin has already made it clear that he said he wouldn't go to WrestleMania again because he doesn't want to do the traveling. But since it's going to be in Las Vegas and that's where he's based now, he will make himself available that weekend. So you got him possibly being in the mix somehow. You have The Rock. You have John Cena on his retirement tour. This has the potential to be the biggest WrestleMania of all time, right?
There's a strong possibility. Look, every time they put on a WrestleMania, it could possibly be the greatest one of all time. And again, I love to say that the one that people talked about that was the greatest was the one that I was involved in, which was WrestleMania 17. Story. I mean, every match on that card was just so damn good, and the storylines were just impeccable. I mean, it was just incredible how good those storylines were.
Absolutely. And folks, if you haven't, because we have a lot of younger fans who listen to the show, and shout out to you for sure. And even people who took time off from watching wrestling and they finally found their way back. Check out WrestleMania 17 if you haven't seen it before or if you haven't seen it in a while. Legitimately, top to bottom, one of the greatest pro wrestling events in the history of pro wrestling. It was just amazing for sure there. Interestingly, Devon, we had Lacey Evans, Macey Estrella on the show last week, and just a wonderful conversation between you and her. And I was kind of like a fly on the wall for the most part, which I appreciated because it was just great to hear two friends express themselves and appreciation for each other. I was pleasantly surprised at the positive feedback that was received. And I know that Lacey has received some of that feedback as well. Folks have tagged her on Twitter and what have you, letting her know that they enjoyed the conversation. What are your thoughts on last week's conversation with Lacey, just in general?
I thought it was great. I thought it, answered a lot of questions that a lot of people had about her, and some of the questions that were said in terms of what type of person she was, and things like that, because she was put through the ringer. People were really talking smack about her because of things that they didn't know, that they might have read in the dirt sheets or got false information from somebody else. And I was very happy and to say that we were able to clear a lot of that up and give her the platform to actually really express her feelings.
Do you have any advice for these folks out here, especially people who are just starting off as media? We keep talking about the dirt sheets and what we don't like. Do you have any advice about how to do it the right way from a perspective of a person who's in the business and you're the person being reported on? What's your advice for anybody who wants to cover pro wrestling?
Get your facts straight. That's first and foremost. Before you print, make sure what you're printing is accurate. Because if not, you're going to be known as the acquirer. And you don't want that. You want to be considered legit. And, if anybody needs to hear the truth or wants to know the truth, they can get it from you. So my thing is, again, just make sure that before you print that story, that everything that's being said to you and what you written down has to be legit, and it has to have backup after backup of what they're saying is true.
Indeed. I agree as well. Get your facts straight. Take the extra time to do a little bit of research. Reach out to the people that you're trying to report on and try to get some type of understanding of what's reality instead of making up your own narratives. That's definitely my advice, for sure. I was catching you up on this whole thing about soft ground wrestling in Uganda. It's a story that I've been on top of since February. These folks went viral. People wanting to be pro wrestlers, and they were filming each other, slamming each other around in dirt and what have you. That's where the soft ground name comes from. And it seemed like a cute story, and people rallied around them, and a GoFundMe was set up, and $10,000 was raised within a week. And then about a month or two later, then another 25,000 was raised for them. So there's been a lot of support in the community. Well, unfortunately, come to find out, the guy who's running it is a scam artist. And unfortunately, it was wrestling media that made it possible for him to execute this scam so effectively, because they were reporting on this thing as being legitimate instead of doing their due diligence like I did and some other folks did in the end, including the guy who wrote the article at bodyslam.net. Want to make sure I give him credit. He did a very good job and very detailed job on that story there. But just from a general standpoint, Devon, what are your thoughts on media pushing GoFundMe and pushing these fundraising efforts, just from a general standpoint?
I think the bottom line is you just got to know your facts. You really do. You have to know what you're putting out there before you put it out there. And something like that, there's scams. They're good scam people all around. And just when you think that you know what you're giving, getting yourself into, you really don't. Even the smartest people get fooled. So you have to be careful. I think that's first and foremost. And know what you're getting involved with, before everything starts to, hit the fan.
For sure. My heart goes out to anybody who was negatively impacted by this. Certainly the folks who are aspiring pro wrestlers. I have no issue with you. The guy running it, he's the one who's the issue, not you. So we want to make sure that, no one's coming down on you, but there are some issues that need to be cleared up with this Bumbash Daniel, the guy's name is. Some serious issues there. Sad news to report, Devon. We lost a member of the pro wrestling community this past week. The Taskmaster himself, Kevin Sullivan. Boston guy,
Yes.
Legend in the business, great mind in the business and what have you. What are your thoughts on Kevin Sullivan?
One of the greatest minds that ever hit the wrestling business. Had a unique gift and helped so many people along the way. Not only the people that he wrestled with, but the up and coming wrestlers. You'll never have another guy like Kevin Sullivan. Again, one of the greatest minds of all time, and was able to take his character and what he was doing and make it mainstream. I mean, he was such a great talent, and he will definitely be missed. Rest in peace, Kevin.
To the family and loved ones of Kevin Sullivan, heart goes out to you. Certainly, this man was a legend. In fact, here at Fenway Park, they actually put up a message on the scoreboard there and what have you, condolences and remembrance of Kevin Sullivan. That tells you how big this guy was. Definitely a big loss for the entire wrestling and entertainment community, no doubt. Speaking of loss, and this is kind of interesting here, Mercedes Moné, the woman formerly known as Sasha Banks, she has gone on YouTube and revealed that she is now divorced, and she's been separated from her husband since 2020. Now, this guy, he has been a gear maker in the WWE, and according to Mercedes, despite the fact that they were separated, she didn't want to let Vince McMahon know because she was afraid of how he would react to it. So they actually pretended to be together for years, despite the fact that they were separated. She's been burying this guy, this now ex-husband, and it's really, really interesting to see this here. What's your take on airing your own dirty laundry like that, there, Devon?
Well, it saddened me to know that she, is getting divorced or is divorced now. I know both of them. Never had a problem with either one of them, especially, Mercedes. She actually calls me dad. She looks at me like a father to me. And, whenever we, speak, she's like, hey, dad, hey, this and that. And I'm like, hey, baby girl, come on over here and give your daddy a hug. Things like that. And, not to mention, whenever, my wife and I would have a kid, say, hey, I got to see my new brother. Hey, I got to see my new sister. So she was like family to me. I just wish that people would realize that you don't need to air your dirty laundry out in public, and, my two divorces that I had, I always made sure that I never, ever put my business in the street. And because you just don't want people to have their own, views or opinions on what's going on in your life when they don't know the whole story. So you have to be real careful, especially on social media, because you got a lot of whack jobs out there as it is. You don't need more of these whack jobs getting involved in your business.
Agreed 100%. And certainly my heart goes out to the both of them. I hope that they continue to find happiness in life. Certainly, I think we all could have done without knowing as many details about their split as has come out. But, such is life, I guess. Everybody does things a little differently. I wonder, since we're on the subject here, when we talk about Sasha Banks, and you're a guy who has been in the business so long, you were a fan growing up, you are an excellent trainer of talent. We've seen that in your wares there. Your students have gone on to be so successful in the business. Where does Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, where does she rank, in your opinion, all time when we talk about some of the greatest female wrestlers of all time?
Oh, I think probably one of the top five. I mean, next to Charlotte and Becky, and just that she really knows how to perform when it's time to perform. She puts her working boots on and she goes. There's no question. I'm very proud to say that during the time of all those women coming up from NXT and coming to the main roster, that I had a chance to work with each and every one of them. And it was such a pleasure to work with them. I had no bad feelings, no nothing on these women. They were great to work with. They knew what they were doing. It was less of me having to say what they had to do. In other words, some talent you have to hold their hand and, get them through the match and step by step. But a lot of like Sasha, Becky, Natty, Charlotte, you told them what to do. They just did it, and they made it look so damn easy. So I honestly think that Sasha is definitely part of the top five female wrestlers of this era.
I agree. I agree. I'll tell you a funny story. When Sasha Banks and Charlotte had that main event Hell in the Cell here in Boston, which was just awesome. Charlotte ended up winning that match and becoming a women's champion again. I thought there was going to be a riot. That Boston crowd was so hot for Sasha Banks, and we really wanted to see her win that match. People were ready to tear the place up, man. It was that hot. But
remember one thing, that was her hometown.
that's right. But what a testament to those ladies and their feud and their ability to get people to give a damn about women's wrestling. The fact that they had people in the palm of their hands to that degree is just amazing. Amazing stuff there.
Incredible. And what I mean by that was her hometown is that I've noticed over the years when I wrestled, a lot of times you didn't get that type of ovation, even if you was the home, grown person, because you didn't prove enough to them that you deserved that type of applause. But Sasha has, and that's why she got the applause that she did in Boston.
Indeed. And listen, shout out to Mercedes. I know she's doing her thing in AEW. I hope and I pray that company sticks around long enough for you to have as storied a career there as you did in the WWE, because you're amazing, and we appreciate you, and we only want the best for you, for sure. There. Now, the rumor mill has been going crazy, and I know that Brad Shepard had reported on some issues in AEW concerning Britt Baker. You had mentioned her a little earlier as well, and there's a story out there that Will Washington was giving her direction about what she needs to do, and she basically told him where to go and how to get there. And Will Washington actually went to Human Resources. This is a story reported on by Brad Shepard, and Human Resources sided with Will Washington, and Britt Baker was actually reprimanded during that situation. Now, fast forward, Britt Baker complains about MJF and Will Ospreay, the hour-long match that they had on Dynamite a couple weeks back. And MJF's girlfriend heard about it, so she told him. He goes to the women's locker room and confronts Britt Baker, cusses her out, punches a wall. Like, what the hell is going on over there, brother?
Anarchy. Complete anarchy. And, Tony, message to you, buddy. If you don't get control, it's going to be another WCW. And, in his defense, he'll say, well, that's why I did what I did and, suspended or what have you. But you got to get control of this company, because if not, it's going to be downhill. And I don't want that to happen. I want these guys to be around for a long time.
It's crazy in 2024 that you would hear a story like that, because, the industry on that level is so corporate now. It's a real job. You got real responsibilities. There's real money involved and implications involved. You got big time TV contracts. You don't have time for this kind of nonsense going on. It boggles my mind, man. It boggles my mind. But I do wonder. I mean, let's fast forward here. Let's say that for one reason or another, Britt Baker becomes a free agent. How do you think she would fit in a WWE environment?
Honestly, I don't know. Without if there's no drama or anything like that, then I think it'd be great. But if there's drama, I don't know.
The company, the way that it's structured today, WWE, they're not putting up with any drama, huh?
No, they're not. And if she just comes there to work, then everything will be fine. There won't be any problem. She'll be able to fit in like everybody else does. But you can't come in there thinking that you're holier than thou, or you're the man. Because they're gonna shut it down quick.
Wise words there. Wise words. Were you able to go out catch any of the Olympics there, Devon?
No, I mean, I caught a little bit of the basketball here and there. I caught. I love the volleyball, the beach volleyball. Love that. That's exciting, especially when the U.S. is down and they're trying to make a comeback. That was really cool to watch them. But other than that, that was it. That's what I saw. I saw I saw a little bit of the basketball, but that was it. Didn't watch too much of the Olympics this year. Got caught up here at home.
Well, we have one of the big names in track and field, Noah Lyles. He has proclaimed himself the fastest man in the world. And I know a lot of people take issue with that because it's not like he's beaten every record. So, who are you to say that? But Noah Lyles, he competed in an event and ended up getting the bronze, and then he passed out, had to be carried out of the venue. Come to find out, he had COVID-19. He ran the 200 meter and knowing that he has COVID-19, and this is a guy who has asthma problems and other issues as well. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on somebody on that level competing with something that's pretty contagious?
Well, I think, look, with what we went through with COVID, I don't think anybody should be competing at all because, again, you run the risk of getting people sick. And, if they don't make it because you pass it on to them, then, that's big. I think, even at that level, you have to be respectful and mindful. If you're sick, you can't do it. And I understand it's the most important thing in your life right now because you've trained for 4 years to get to this level, but yet and still you don't want to give somebody something that could be very, very harmful to their body and even take them out. So you need to step aside, unfortunately, until you're able to compete.
Yeah, for sure. I think that it's crazy. And as somebody who had COVID recently, a couple weeks back, and you folks heard the story about that, I can't even imagine doing anything strenuous, dealing with that. This guy could have died out there, Devon.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is a respiratory issue, and he's out here running 200 meters. Jesus Christ. So hopefully Noah is okay, but I don't think that was a good idea to even compete in that. We saw in basketball, both on the men's and the women's side, it looks like the world is catching up to the United States in terms of competition. Both the U.S. men and the U.S. women were in the gold medal round against France in both cases in basketball. And in both cases, the games went down to the wire. They were very, very close. What are your thoughts here? Is the jig up? But do we have to finally admit that the United States is not the only place where you have the best athletes in these sports?
Well, people are getting bigger, stronger, faster, and the other countries are starting to catch up to it. So that might be the case there. You never know. I don't know. Maybe we should bring the dream team back, the first dream team. Have them come back and blow these teams out by 70 points again.
Listen, we are so far away from that, brother.
That's great.
We are so far away from that. These games, winning by 1 point, winning by 3 points, it's like, whoa. You know what I mean? And half of these guys on these other teams you've never even heard of. It's not like they're in the NBA or the WNBA. So it's fascinating. We are living in a different world today where because of social media and the internet and the wider reach of television and satellite, people are being more exposed to what's possible and they're doing the work to get themselves competitive. So it's interesting. Can you call yourself a world champion in the NBA if you're only playing against NBA players? That's a real question.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. I think I got to pass on that one. It's very hard. I don't know. I don't know.
How about that's a poll for our listeners out there? What do you think? Can they continue to call themselves world champions? What do you think there, folks? Let us know there. Devon and the Duke, do a hashtag Devon and the Duke. Let us know what you think about that there, folks. Devon, do you have any big events coming up over the weekend?
No, well, my daughter's birthday, she turned 6, so I'll be chilling with her this weekend and home, so I'm not going anywhere, and I'm just going to relax, kick back, and enjoy myself.
I love it. It's funny. Some of these folks who wanted to criticize what you had to say about Will Washington and in general, they were complaining, Duke, how could you let Devon say that? And I'm sitting there scratching my head because I'm like, well, wait a second. Devon Dudley, he's one of the greatest, most accomplished people in his field. He has been a television star for over 30 years. He is married. He has 7 children. How the hell could I let this grown man do anything?
Again, No one said anything bad. I didn't say anything bad about him. It's the people within the organization itself that are saying this, and they just happen to come to me and say it. We're talking in passing, and a lot of times they would say his name, and I had no idea who it was. So until after about the third or fourth time, I started picking up on who it was, and Swerve's cousin, Swerve's cousin. I was like, oh, okay. I think I met him, and then when they started describing it to me, I said, oh yeah, I met him. I said hi. He came to Tony's office, gave me the nod, and that was it. But I said, other than that, I don't know him, so I can't really speak on him. So for me to say that, and then all of a sudden now you take it personal because I'm telling you what other people are saying, then I'm not the one with the problem here.
For anybody out there listening, Devon, if they want to get in touch with you, especially if they want to check out Devon Academy, what's the best way they can do that?
Well, they can go to Devon Dudley Academy on Instagram, and of course, Devon Dudley Academy on Twitter, and Devon Dudley Academy on Facebook. And you can go also on my fan page on Devon Dudley or Testify Devon on Instagram.
Indeed. And of course, folks, as you know, Duke Loves Rasslin on Facebook, on Twitter, DukeLovesRasslin@gmail.com. Send in your birthday shout outs, your questions, the whole 9 yards. In fact, one of our wonderful listeners there, Akia, she is celebrating her 27th birthday. So can we get a birthday shout out for Akia?
Happy birthday, Akia. Big shout out from Devon. Oh, Testify.
That's right. That's right. And in closing, I am going to say this, and I know Devon's probably going to put me through a flaming table, but I got to give a shout out to Mrs. Devon Dudley there, the beautiful superstar that she is. We appreciate you. Your husband's always putting you over on this show, whether you listen or not. He's always putting you over on this show. And we just want to give you a shout out just in general. She's the hidden star behind the scenes for what we do here as well, right?
Yes, she is. I mean, she's my pride and joy. I've been married twice before her, and, I feel like it's the diamond in the rough with her, and I love her very dearly, and she's my heart and soul.
Folks, as always, we appreciate you listening, spreading the word. It has been amazing. This is only episode 10, and we have been kicking butt on the rankings. You have been sharing the show all over the world. It's clear that you're loving what we're talking about. We give a little bit something different here on Devon and the Duke because we talk about life. We talk about what's going on in wrestling, but most importantly, we just give it to you straight. And that's what we're going to keep on doing there. So how about we have the final word from the main man himself, the Hall of Famer, Devon Dudley. Take us out, brother.
Well, do unto others as you want others to do unto you. And it's Bible quotes, and I love it. And, no weapons formed against you shall prosper, for if you believe in God, you are more than a conqueror.